Tony Stewart, welcome to the wind tunnel. It may not be the kind of wind tunnel you're used to, but then again, it is freewheeling. It's unrestricted conversation. So maybe it is.
Well, I appreciate it. This is I can assure you this wind tunnel is a lot cheaper than the one we have to put these race cars in that they charge us by the hour. But yeah, I think we'll have a lot of fun today with you.
All right, let's talk a little bit about your most recent accomplishment. You won the last International Race of Champions championship all the way back in 2006. And now at Nashville a couple of weeks ago, you were crowned as the first ever SRX Superstar Racing Experience champion. Where does it fit in your incredibly long list of accomplishments?
Well, as you know, I mean, any championship's important and very significant. They all have their challenges and aspects that make them special. But this was super special, not just because of it being the first SRX one, but truly because of the fact that in '05, I think was the last year that we ran the IROC series. And I remember being at Atlanta and talking to Jay Signori and talking to him and Barb before the race. And I told Jay, I mean, we all knew that unfortunately IROC wasn't going to return the next year. And so I told Jay that I said, if I win this championship today, I said, I want to buy this car exactly the way it is when we finish the race. And to this day, I have that car in my shop at home. Still has all the rubber marks on it. The only thing that came off of that race car was the onboard camera that the network took back. But other than that, it's exactly the same setup, the same motor. I mean, it literally has not been touched since then. So to be able to fast forward now from 2005 to 2021 and to be a partner with Ray Evernham and Sandy and George Pine, to create something that has been so exciting for the last 6 weeks and have the opportunity to win the championship. We were finishing up. We went up on the stage to do the race presentations for that event and then to do the championship stuff. And I looked at Ray. I said, Ray, I know this car only has 6 races on it, but I said, I really want to buy this car to put next to the IROC championship car. And he thought that was really cool. So, Ray's got a great history with IROC too. That's where he got his start. And to be able to come from that and win the last IROC championship, the first SRX championship, and to be able to have those cars in my collection means a lot to me.
What was the biggest takeaway? This was a unique series that mixed legends with up and coming young stars. So from your perspective, what was the biggest accomplishment of the series?
I'll be honest, Jack, there were so many cool things that happened. I don't know. I honestly don't think there is just one thing. I mean, I think from the ownership side, you look at the TV ratings and the numbers that we had each week and, being able to be second to the Cup Series. I mean, that means we beat Formula One, we beat IndyCar, we beat NHRA, we beat the Xfinity Series, the Truck Series. To do that with a brand new series and do that for 6 consecutive weeks is something I'm extremely proud of from the ownership side. To go to awesome racetracks, to go to your track at Stafford and kick off our season with a sellout crowd, to go to Eldora and Knoxville, 2 places that on the dirt side I'm very passionate about. To get an opportunity to finally go to Slinger Speedway and see how cool that racetrack was. To go back to IRP where I ran all those Saturday Night Thunders and Thursday Night Thunder races back in the day, and to finish at the Nashville Fairgrounds. I mean, we picked 6 awesome racetracks. Then you go to the drivers and go, get the opportunity to meet and race against Paul Tracy and Willie T. Ribbs, to race again with Helio, to race with Tony Kanaan, to get to race against Bill Elliott and Bobby Labonte and Michael Waltrip again. Huge, really cool stuff there. But the thing that probably caught me off guard the most with the drivers was getting the chance to finally meet and race against Ernie Francis Jr. and Haley Deegan, who I'd met but never had a chance to race with, to meet Luke Fenhouse and Doug Coby. I've raced with Bobby Santos before. To race against these guys, it was such a cool mix of drivers, of young and old and in between, to have guys and race against Greg Biffle again a couple times, Scott Speed. We had cool drivers to race against. And, I think it was a great mixture of talent, but we had fun race cars. I mean, to have Tony Uri Jr. and Ray Abraham design these cars and build race cars that none of us, I was so scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're not going to get enough track time on these cars for them to get the setups right. And to go to flat paved ovals, to go to banked paved ovals, to go to a flat dirt track and a banked dirt track and have these cars be fun everywhere we went, absolutely blew my mind how much fun we had driving the cars. And so everything about it, to have heroes, to have villains in the series, to have controversy with drivers and scuff ups with drivers. It had all the aspects that you need to have a successful 2-hour show every Saturday night for 6 consecutive weeks. So it's hard to sit there and pick one thing. Everything about it was amazing. And there were so many things that happened off camera, and when the show wasn't going on, with practice and being in the trailers around all the guys. We had RV trailers that we all got to hang out in during the day, and to have conversations with Paul Tracy, and to get to know Willie T. Ribbs, but to get to know Luke Fenhouse and Doug Kobe, and to get to spend time with those guys as they're coming up through their career, and Haley Deegan, and Ernie, who I'd never met, didn't even know anything about Ernie Francis till we invited him to SRX. But man, Leah and I are huge fans of him now. And now when he goes in races, we're trying to find the results to see how he did.
Yeah.
It made for such a fun 6-week stretch where you had such great personalities and drivers that you got to race with, but getting the opportunity to spend time outside of the cars with those guys and get to know them better. I mean, if you can't have fun with Helio Castroneves and Tony Kanaan, you need to go see a doctor, because your life sucks, basically. So to have guys like that you got to hang around each week, and at the end of the day, you got to race with them, but at the same time, to really, in some of those cases, we got to catch back up, hadn't seen each other for a while. Some of them I'd never met before and had been in motorsports and are toward the end of their careers. And some of them are newcomers that are just getting started in their careers. That was the fun part. Probably the most fun that I had in the series was getting to spend the time with the drivers.
So while you were out having fun and adding to your trophy case, your NASCAR Cup team was taking delivery on this so-called Gen 7 race car that you and the rest of your NASCAR Cup Series peers are going to be wheeling next season. Tell me a little bit about what you think lies ahead in that regard.
I've had people ask what they thought was going to be the most challenging part of it. And the answer that I have is it's a shorter list of what's not going to be challenging about it. I think everything about that car is going to be a challenge, but I think that's going to be part of the fun of it too. I mean, when you think back to what we've had for the basic package of a NASCAR Cup car, an Xfinity car, and truck for the last 30 years or 40 years, you take a Cup car and you turn it upside down and you look at the rear suspension. It is 2 I-beams that are what they designed for trucks. That's why they call it truck arm suspension. That's what we're running in Cup cars that at Michigan, when I was running in 2015 and 16, we were going into turn 1 at Michigan at 221 miles an hour in a Cup car with truck arm I-beam suspension in the rear. And to think about all the cool engineers that we had and smart people in motorsports that figured out how to take that package and figure out how to make it go that fast was remarkable. Now we get to take that same group of guys with a brand new car with independent rear suspension, gearboxes that we have the ability to tweak on. There's new aspects that we've never had the ability to work on before that the engineering departments are going to have a field day with this. But it's a challenge right now, especially when, we're just now taking delivery of these cars and get our hands on them finally. But we're in the middle of a season that we're still trying to win races, still trying to lock drivers in. And thank God we got Eric Amarola a win last weekend. Him and Booger Ravitch did an awesome job of getting that 10 car and getting Smithfield in victory lane and locking them into the playoffs. So we have a lot of focus on still getting 3 more cars locked into that. But at the same time, we're going to have to take a group of people that are in-house and shift them toward that new car, because I can promise you every organization isn't going to wait till the last race of the season and then go, oh, by the way, now we have to go work on these things. So we're going to have to all get humping on these things and try to figure out the nuances of them, and what are the things that we're going to be able to try to find advantages on, and do the same thing that's been in motorsports for eternity, trying to figure out how do you take what you have and how to make it better and get the most out of it.
Tony, I can't think of anybody that has as broad-based a view of American motorsports other than you, Roger Slack, and you with Eldora Speedway, continuing that incredible Earl Baltus legacy there, your All-Star Circuit of Champions, your Cup entry, your sprint car racing, and your short track appearances. What does Tony Stewart think the current state of affairs in motorsports across America is?
I would say probably the best example I can think of was I called my friend at Featherlight Trailers the other day, and we were just talking in general. I said, what's the, how are you guys doing? He goes, well, we're 14 to 16 months behind right now on builds. Featherlight probably builds arguably the best trailer in motorsports, and for them to be 14 to 16 months behind I've never heard of that. And to think about all the teams, and especially during COVID, you're sitting there thinking, how are tracks going to survive? How are race fans going to survive? How are race teams going to survive? It was a huge challenge from the professional motorsports side with NASCAR and IndyCar and NHRA, because you have so many corporate sponsors and Fortune 500 companies involved, and how they were having to cut back to make things work corporate wise. But then you think about all the short track industry, and to see the amount of cars that ran last year, and when tracks started opening up and when fans were allowed to start coming in, to see the fans come out in groves, just was amazing to see how many people. And this year, now that restrictions in a lot of states are 100% gone, to see car counts, to see sellout crowds. I mean, we went to tracks. I think the crowd at IRP, I think they said they hadn't seen a crowd like that since the late 70s. To go to the Nashville Fairgrounds and have it sold out, they haven't seen that for years. I mean, I think the motorsports industry as a whole, I think there's some sectors of it that are still struggling a little bit. And I think a lot of that's in the manufacturing side. But as far as competition and teams being involved and fans going to the racetrack, I feel like it's as healthy as it's ever been right now. And that example of, back order on trailers, I think that's a good example. I think there's a lot of companies. I know there's some of the chassis builders that we deal with that are 40 to 60 cars behind on getting cars built and sent out to people that have ordered brand new race cars. So I feel like the motorsports industry as a whole right now is really, really healthy right now. Why? I don't know. I can't answer the question of why it is, but what I see from the outside looking in, and what I see at the racetrack, is that the motorsports industry as a whole is very, very healthy right now.
Well, let's just sit back and enjoy it, shall we?
I'm with you on that.
All right. The other side of the coin is, it was not that long ago where, maybe at 18, 19. In fact, I remember hooking up with you on Thursday Night Thunder when you were still just a kid at that age. Now we got kids 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 years of age that are wheeling race cars on America's short tracks, and some of them making it through ARCA and other things. At 16, they're veterans. What's up with this youth movement?
It's literally crazy. I mean, when I got my opportunity to run a sprint car in USAC, I was 20 years old. The first time I got in one. The first time I got in a cup car, I was 25. Now you have kids that are in the truck series running the short tracks because they're only 15 and their parents have to drive them to the race shop.
Yeah.
It's asinine. It's and probably the part that scares me and is most disturbing to me, and I'll get to the positives of it too, but something that really is something that I feel like is going very much the wrong direction in short track industry, is promoters and tracks that are letting 10, 12, 13, 14-year-olds drive full-size race cars in the adult classes, which if you're in a full-size race car, you should be an adult. You should be at least 16 years old. If city governments and state laws don't let you drive a car on city streets at 35 to 55, 60 miles an hour, you shouldn't be driving a full-size race car at the age of 12, 14 years old right now. Doesn't mean that you're not capable of it, but there's a lot of aspects of it that don't make sense. There's these kids at 12, 14 years old, they can barely get to school and back without doing something stupid, let alone putting them in race cars. And they have zero regard for safety. They have zero regard for etiquette. Can they mash the gas? Absolutely. You think about when you and I were kids, for example, and we got on bicycles without training wheels the first time. We crashed, but you got back up and you got going. I've seen kids that have tried to ride bicycles and they fell down and got hurt for a split second, and the steam goes away in 10 seconds and they don't want to try riding the bike again the rest of the day. But they don't, I guess what I'm saying is these young kids don't have a concept of what can happen and what the ramifications are, not only for their safety, but the guys that they're racing, the people they're racing against. And they damn sure don't think about what it costs and the time that it takes to build these cars, the money it takes to invest to build these race cars. And what happens if you go out and you wreck against a guy out here that works a 9-to-5 job, he has 3 or 4 kids, and he works on his race car till 11, 12 o'clock every night to get ready to go to the racetrack. There's just fundamental problems that don't make sense. It's like, I don't understand why parents, and I blame the parents for this. I don't understand why parents don't let their children be kids and grow up being kids and learn. You got parents that are dragging their kids all over the country and they're not in school. They're homeschooling their kids, which there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. But these kids need to be around other kids, and they need to learn how to be kids first.
Yeah.
They need to grow up a little bit before they get thrown in professional motorsports. Do they have talent? Absolutely. I see kids every day that I think have talent, but I also get bombarded by parents and get letters and get bombarded at tracks. And they're like, hey, you need to watch my kid tonight. He's in this car. And he's 14 years old and he's won 9 races this year. And I always ask them something that absolutely stops them in their tracks. I'm like, well, have they got hurt and been in the hospital yet with a racing crash? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you're telling me how good your kid is. I said, I don't know how good your kid is till he's been in the hospital after he got hurt in a race car. I want to see, just like the kid that fell off the bicycle, I want to see if he gets back up and gets right back in there and tries to jump the bicycle again. So I'm not interested in 10, 12, 14-year-old kids. I have no desire to look at them because they're not even mature yet. And you don't even know by the time they get to 16 or 18 if they still even want to do it. And if they're doing it for the right reasons. Are they doing it because that's what they're passionate about? Or are they doing it because their parents are passionate about it? So that's the negative side of it that I don't like. On the positive side of it, there are some unbelievably talented kids that have come through, but they're talented at 16, they're talented at 18, they'll be even more talented when they're in their 20s. But again, it's the fact of you just don't know what you truly have got until I feel like I've told some veterans, I've told guys like Jack Hewitt and Steve Kinzer about that, and they shake their head and they nod and they're like, yeah, you're right. You truly find out what you've got when these guys get banged up and they realize what happens if they make a mistake and they crash, what can actually happen to them. Then you find out how good somebody really is. But I love the fact that there's so many youngsters in motorsports because that is obviously the future. But I hope they get a chance to grow up and be kids first and enjoy their racing before it becomes everything in their life.
Hey, it's been a real treat for me. I hope it's been pretty good for you. I've enjoyed our time to get caught up and just look forward to what lies ahead, not only in the chase in the NASCAR Cup Championship, but also down the road on all the crazy things that you still continue to do, Tony.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to marry a girl that drives a lot faster than me, and she's got me doing stuff I never thought I'd ever do. She's made me defy the laws of physics and got my fat ass on a wakeboard on the lake and wake surfing around, and has even got me making laps in a Top Fuel dragster every now and then when they get test sessions. So I'm having a lot of fun with her, but I love the opportunity. You and I've worked together for years in motorsports, and I cherish the opportunities we get to spend time like this together and talk about racing and all the fun times we used to have.
Thanks, Smoke.
All right, buddy. Thank you.